What is going on with Enlisted right now? First, we're going to have a progression change where it's going to be more like War Thunder, and now we're going to have some economy changes, being able to search as every nation, and you're going to be punishing deserters? Man, we got to break down this news release from yesterday, so let's get into it. Alright, if you guys have been living under a rock, then you know that the War Thunder style progression system is coming to Enlisted, combining all the campaigns into factions, so you're going to be playing as your nation. While that has left the community pretty much divided on if they want historical accuracy or just fun gameplay, it is 100% confirmed that you are not going to be seeing the Russians storming the beaches of Normandy, or some other weird alternative history matchup. While this is great news in my opinion, a lot of players are still angry about the historical feel of the game going away. Most of the people are going to be complaining about there being equipment inside of a match on a map in a campaign that was not actually in the battle, because we all know that in the current campaign system, all the equipment they used was historically accurate. Like seriously, stop asking for historical accuracy. The game is not a historically accurate game. Okay, but what about the people that bought extra squad slots? What happens to them when these campaigns merge? So if you bought it for, say, the Moscow campaign, will it carry over for all the Russian forces? Well, KO Fox answered this by saying the following. Quote, while I can voice a preliminary plan, the slots will be saved. Extra slots that have nowhere to go will be redeemed. So for what it sounds like to me personally is that if you did buy extra slots, it is going to carry over across all the campaigns. So for the Russian forces, if you have it in Moscow, Stalingrad, or even Berlin, you're going to have those extra squad slots for the rest of the Russian forces. Now, if you're Mr. Moneybags, aka H. Joey, and you just have a bunch of extra squad slots for every campaign for the Russian forces or the Germans, whatever, it looks like they're going to refund those to you. It's probably going to be an enlisted gold for you to spend it on something else. Ever since we've had the news release about the progression change, I've been really silent because I didn't think there was a lot of information for me to go off of. And one of the big questions I've been having is, how is this going to affect the enlisted economy? As someone that just has a ton of bronze orders, I've always felt like they were just super overkill. Like I never really needed them for anything. And then the perk system was completely clunky. And I even made a video about how I thought perks were just completely useless to this game because the UI was just so strange to me that no one really wanted to take the time to just sit there and make sure that all your dudes had exactly what you want. Because at the end of the day, I just want to shoot people in the face. I don't want to do personnel management. So if you're like me, then you're in luck because that entire system is going away. Well, sort of. At the very bottom of the news release, it says that we are going to a single currency system of just silver. Now, that doesn't mean that the enlisted gold is going away. Obviously, Gaijin is still going to make money. Now, because of the switch, it does pose the question of what's going to happen to everyone's bronze orders they have. And according to Vault, they are working on a system that they haven't quite worked out the ratio for yet, but basically the bronze orders are going to turn into silver orders. We don't know what that ratio is going to be, so it could be like 10 bronze orders is going to equal 1 silver or something. We just don't know right now. I don't think they know right now. Now you might be thinking, so how do I get, level 5 assaulters? And that's a little bit interesting and a little bit complex, so I'm going to break it down here for you guys. So if you're trying to get like level 5 assaulters, the way you would end up doing that is actually going through the squad upgrades and then getting all the way to level 5. That'll have you unlock all 5 stars and make all your assaulters level 5. Now, that doesn't mean you necessarily have those 5 stars because you got to get XP for each individual person is how I understand it at this time. Also, if you remember, when you unlocked your first Assaulter squad, it was Assaulter level 1, and it could only have such a high roll on perks. You are now not going to see that from what it sounds like. At least that's how it sounded like when I talked to Vault. She kind of explained it to me as, they're going to make it just based off of, where you are on the progression tree for equipment. It's not going to be more solely around these squads. And this is kind of reinforced with the news release when it talks about you being able to select any perk you want and not having to retrain your soldier if you want to switch to a different perk setup. So that's really cool because you're going to be able to test out a lot of different perk combinations and truly make your squad the way you want it. Although Darkflow, please get rid of Vitality. It's a bullshit perk. Thank you. Since a lot of the community does want some kind of historical accuracy as a general focus for Enlisted, they are going to try to implement a soft rule to keep the equipment historically accurate to the map and time you are playing. Now, I want to stress that this is a soft rule, so if there are long queue times and you're playing at like the odd hours of the day that no one's on, you're just going to get thrown into any match. And I think that's okay. If we can't meet them at least halfway, I mean, come on, guys. Because honestly, if you really get down to it, when you're playing most of these campaigns outside of like Berlin and Stalingrad, really, can you tell where you are in Europe fighting? Because I sure can't, and I'm a historian for God's sakes. I mean, these maps don't look like the actual battlefield. I mean, if you want that, you go play Hell Let Loose, because they actually did research and looked at things to make it look like the actual battle. And yes, before you guys all go typing on your keyboards really quickly, being like, oh, enlightened, they actually did research. Look here, this is a picture of that building, and that building is in the map. La-di-da-di-da. Yeah, okay, great. But like the Moscow campaign, do you really be like, oh, I'm fighting outside of the gates of Moscow? Like, you're in a snowy field. Come on now. Now, where it does get interesting is there actually is going to be a hard cap for U.S. players who are going into the Pacific. So you're not going to have late war United States playing up against Japan right now because Japan doesn't have any late war stuff. Which, like, the first thing that came to my mind was, all right, so if you want to pwn a bunch of noobs, you just play Japan, because they're only going to face early war Americans, which are most likely new players, right? So the biggest piece of information that I really want from Darkflow right now is the formula that they are going to use in order to come up with your battle rating. I mean, if I have a Springfield bolt action on all my guys, but then I also have a P-47, what is my battle ranking and how are you determining that? My guess is it's going to be something like War Thunder with the tech tree. So you're going to have like equipment that's in certain ranks. And then once you kind of, go out of that rank, you got to kind of do some weird stuff with your lineup to make sure you're competitive. And that's going to be super annoying. I'm also curious, are they just going to abandon the complete like 40 levels max thing? So are we going to have 40 levels for the United States, 40 levels for the Germans, Russians, etc.? Or are they just going to, flood this tech tree with as much shit as they can cram into it? My guess is they're going to shove in so much shit into this tech tree because they want to make it, still grindy so you buy premium. Now, if you're like me and a total Chad and have maxed out this game already, well, you might not be done yet, because we do have confirmation that there will be new factions added to the game, and they're going to be launching those factions in phases. So the first step to any new faction being launched is going to be in the way of an event. Now, that's going to be with predetermined squads and equipment, which is something we've seen before if you remember the Even Fight events. It's just going to be that with a new faction. They do say that these events are going to have unique rewards only available during those events. So to me, those probably are going to be squads or some type of gun that you can't get in the normal progression, which is always cool to, reward your diehard fans. As far as speculation goes for new factions, a lot of people have thrown out France as being a new faction added, and that's probably the most likely. I really want to see the Romanians and the Finns added, but we'll see. If you guys have a faction that you want added, put it down in the comments below. I want to hear from you guys. There's just so much going on with Enlisted right now that it's kind of hard to keep up with everything. I mean, so many people are focused on this new progression system and the merging of campaigns because that's really huge, but one thing that people aren't talking about is how awesome it's going to be able to search for a match with any faction. You can just hit quick start and get into a game that is most likely full of people. And on top of that, you're going to get a reward for doing so because Darkflow wants people to play up against other people. I mean, that's been the biggest critical thing about Enlisted is people are like, I just don't want to go up against bots. And the second biggest thing is they're going to be punishing deserters. We don't know exactly what that punishment's going to be, but I hope it's really severe because I can't stand you. So 2023 is going to be a big year for Enlisted. I talked about that in my other video about how it's pretty much the make or break year for it. Now, I think they're going to be doing a lot of updates for the general gameplay before we see any kind of added content of like new factions or anything. Or at least that's what I'm hoping for. If they do add any new factions, they'll probably come late in 2023, maybe early 2024. But we'll have to wait and see. You never know with Darkflow. They do some weird stuff. Sometimes they get it right. A lot of times they don't, But right now, I'm really happy with the direction that Enlisted is going in. And I hope you are too. If you are, be sure to hit that like, comment, and subscribe button. And as always, scholars, hit those books, hit those bottles. Cheers.